we gather, open hearts and open minds, sharing truth in every season, growing stronger through time. We're learning, we're growing, finding strength inside through real conversations. Together we rise. It's through real conversations. Together we rise.
Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Biggs, CEO of My Best Everyday Coaching and Consulting, and the host of the video podcast, Real Conversations with Michelle. I want to thank you all for joining us for part two of my Career Evolution series. The first one was Navigating the Workplace, which was targeted for those who are early in their career. This episode is targeted for those who are mid-career and beyond, and it's titled The Pivot, Reflect, Reassess, and Define What's Next. Realize that so many people who are mid-career often find themselves in this place of wanting to make a change. And the question is, how do you go about doing it? And there's many circumstances that push us to wanting to make a change. And we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. For those who are new to my platform, I just share just a little bit about me. Retired 37-year HR professional, worked in an investment bank for 14 years, and then worked for a global pharmaceutical company for 23 years. Started this podcast in 2020, just with the goal of just wanting to help people. We know we were all bunkered at home, and it was me and my dogs. I was trying to figure out a way that I could connect with people, but also be of assistance through this podcast. And as a life coach, which I am, as well as an executive and career coach, I found that this podcast was a way for me to do it. Like any educational program, I would strongly encourage people to do your homework. What you're hearing tonight are the stories of people and their journeys, but what they do may not fit what you do. So make sure you do your research so you can do what's best for yourself. All right. And so without further ado, let's kick this off. I'm going to intro my guests one by one. First up, I'm going to have Trinae Williams join us. Hey, Trinae.
Hello.
Hi. And y'all, this is my bonus sis. So I feel special that I'm able to have her join me for her debut on my podcast. So Trinae, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Trinae. I started off in higher education. I did that for about 17 years before leaving there and going into the energy industry, right? Complete shift. And I also do substance abuse work as well as a clinician with men. So I've been doing that for about 13 years.
Yeah.
And master's degree in mental health and addiction counseling. So that's where that work drives from in terms.
Mm-hmm.
But the shift was higher education to energy. That was a major.
Yeah. And what made you make that shift? Just a little bit. What made you make that shift?
So what made me make that shift?
Mm-hmm.
I actually, it didn't happen. It happened by chance. It wasn't something that I was looking to do at
Mm-hmm.
all. My friend and I, like, she worked with me, and she was actually going to a career fair, but
Okay.
she didn't pose it as that. She actually said, "I'm going to an interview. Would you like to come?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's not kind of how that works, but what?" Um, and she was dressed up more than usual during
Okay.
this particular day, and she's asked me like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to this interview, do you want to come? And I'm like, what? So needless to say, I ended up sending her my resume and ended up going there for a couple of hours, had on the spot interviews. None of this is just random.
Right.
On the spot interviews, um, went through two or three of them. And during the last one, they loved me. They're like, listen, I'm gonna have such and such contact you on this date, um, and we'll go from there. You'll have a formal interview for
Okay.
that specific position. So that's what ended up happening. And but ironically, the dates didn't align well. So when I had the interview set up for a Tuesday. That Sunday prior to the Tuesday of the interview, my grandmother passed away.
Okay.
Um, so when she passed away, obviously I'm not in the right mindset when
Right.
that happened. But I'm like still trying to push through, and I'm still going to set it up, because how unprofessional of me to contact somebody on a Monday and tell them I'm not going to show up because my
Yeah.
mom passed away on.
Yeah.
So I still pushed through. I went there. I let her know during the interview. Interview went great. No issues, concerns, or anything. They were actually hiring 18 people. During for that position. They was hiring 18 people. Ironically, I didn't get the position.
Okay. Okay.
I
We'll let you
didn't.
tell some more of your story in a minute. But
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you say is you just went on an interview with somebody. They were talking about they were hiring. You weren't necessarily looking at the time.
At all. At
Right.
all.
Right.
Random. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's it. And that's just basically how I ended up inside that that's how I ended up making that transition. But again, I
Okay.
will get into it. But yeah, it wasn't something planned. I will definitely
Okay.
say that. Yeah.
Okay. And I like I like what I like about your journey is you found a way to do two things that
Hmm.
you are passionate about. So one, now having worked in energy for several years, and as you mentioned, you're also doing clinician work in the evening. So it can be done. It can be done for those who have interest in two places. So next up, let me bring Mr. Tony Anthony Fuller up. Tony Tone.
Hey, how we doing? How we doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. And one sentence about what led you to make your change, your pivot.
Okay, my name's Anthony Tony, for short. Fuller. I am owner of a Fuller Life Now Travel. I end up doing getting into the travel industry as I retired from the medical field in 2023. So looking at trying to figure out myself, my wife Mindy, we always tried looking around, saying ways of creating income for ourselves. And one of the things for me was, loving travel. I traveled a lot in my lifetime. I looked at traveling and was like, hey, becoming a travel advisor, and then found out we can actually own our own franchise, because that was something we were looking at getting into. We did the research, and I mean, everything worked out because seeing some of my friends and hearing stories, a lot of people retire and they don't know what they're going to do after about 6 months or a year. They get bored, try to figure it out. So I started trying to plan for that prior, like,
Yeah,
what do I want my retirement to look like?
right.
And I knew we will definitely travel was top on our list and everything. So it really worked out really well for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. And you're also a super host, home vacation super host. And you guys
Yes,
have a travel channel as well. So yeah, we'll get
exactly.
into a little bit of that stuff. But you took a situation where you transitioned and really solidified your next. And we'll talk about the process of some of the things that you guys thought about as you were doing that. Y'all, my dog is gonna make a special presentation. He'll show some appearances throughout the night because he's sick and he ain't trying to stay on the floor. So some of my guests have seen him before, but if you see a little head pop up, just know it's little boy Blue. So next up, I'm gonna bring up Russell, Mr. Russell Cox. How are you, bruh?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and share what led you to this space of pivoting in at any stage of your career. What led you to pivot?
All right, so I would say that I've had two seismic pivots in my professional career, in my life, really. They've been uh, certainly career changes, which also afford you to kind of shift and change your lifestyle as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm 43. I went to University of Buffalo for undergrad, and
Okay.
I got my degree. I got my bachelor's degree at UB. But I got it
Those-
for the purposes of just having mom and dad put that piece of paper up on the wall. Right. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be a firefighter since I could remember. So after graduating from UB, I pressed hard. And getting into the fire service is more challenging than most people think. It took me 5 years to get on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got on the job, worked that for about 5 years, moved up to firefighter two, became an acting officer, and was preparing for a lieutenant's exam. And then I realized that my what I wanted to be more than anything in the world was a great husband and a father.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be able to take care of my family at an uncommon level, right?
Okay.
At a level that you don't see most of us brown folks, especially where I'm coming from, able to take care of their families. So I I resigned from the fire department pretty abruptly, applied to B school, and went back to business school because I figured in my mind's eye, in order to take care of this family that I didn't have a wife or any children at the time. I have a wife and two kids now. I want to be able to take care of them at an uncommon level that's going to require more money. How do I make more money? Well, first I got to learn how money works.
Mm-hmm.
In my very simple man brain, I said, okay, where do you learn how money works? School, right? So I went
Mm-hmm.
back to B school, got into Big Four, got into consulting, and shifted from being a firefighter to a Big Four consultant.
Okay.
Um, did that for about 9 years. And then this administration came in, swinging their mighty fists. And I made it through the first two rounds of riffs, but got swept up in the third. So um, I've currently been doing some like 1099 project management work,
Mm-hmm.
still keeping touch with my folks and the skills that I developed over the last decade or so. But I'm really having this shift in mind and focus to um, what's the next thing for me and my family? And because we have two boys that I've
Right.
been homeschooling for the last 6 months, really starting to put together like a program that we can first utilize with them, but
Right.
hopefully roll out and scale. Not totally sure what it looks like, but my wife and I are exploring it right now. So that's
Okay.
going to be the second huge pivot in my professional career.
Okay. Sounds good. So you right in the midst of it. So love to hear your thought process as I ask these questions in terms of how you're coming about, how you came about your decision to where you are now and some of the things that you're thinking about as you think about things going forward. So last but not least, Miss Adia Jordan. Hello, Miss Adia, making her second debut.
Hi,
Not even second
wonderful.
debut, second appearance.
Second appearance. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be back.
Yes,
The last
ma'am.
time I was on this show really was a shift for me just in general. And then I had to pivot again since that show. So I'm really happy to be here with all of my colleagues. So
Yep.
thank you.
So talk a little bit about yourself, what you do, and talk about a pivot that you've made and
Ooh.
what led you to making the pivot.
So I've had a couple of pivots in my life. I'm originally from New York City. I initially started off in B school. I went to school initially for finance, switched over to comms when I recognized I didn't like statistics. I graduated from the University of Buffalo. And then I decided that the bartending I was doing and the comms work that I was doing was more aligned with like project management. And I loved event planning. And that kind of through line has been helping me throughout my career.
Hmm.
I've been fortunate enough to work in government, working for elected officials, both in Buffalo and in New York. And then I moved down here to the DC area about 10 years ago to work for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. So I started working as a project manager with them, then serving as an event planner, and then leading their annual CBC conference. That was a real big pivot for me, not only a culture shock moving down to DC from Buffalo, but also a really big leap in my career. And then COVID changed for me wholeheartedly. It shifted the way I thought about the way I work, how I work, who I work for. And I was lucky enough to, use my free time to actually do some consulting work because I had transformed this annual 5-day conference that they had to a fully virtual 30-day conference that ran basically like a TV show,
Yeah.
a TV channel. And then another pivot came along when I was invited to be a presidential appointee for the Biden Harris administration and started working as a director of scheduling for both GSA and for the Secretary of Labor.
Yeah.
After that, that changed my life because I was then unemployed after the administration was done. So I spent last year really just kind of trying to figure out what is my purpose, where do I land? I've done all these things. I've had several jobs, but what makes the most sense? And I recognized I was going back to doing consulting. It was where I
Right.
found the most freedom, where I found the most love. And then I got asked just recently in the last 4 months to actually use my transferable skills to be a director of HR at a charter school. So
Okay.
I never thought that human resources was going to be the place that I was going to end up, but it actually is representative of the skills. It's really a culmination of all the skills that I've had: people management, stakeholder engagement, operations, all of those things. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy to be here, and I've done a couple of pivots, so I'm excited to talk about just what this looks like and defining what's next. So
Good.
thank you.
Good. And I appreciate I've shared with you all when I was thinking about who I wanted to be on this podcast. I love that each of you are bringing something different to this discussion in terms of the why for your pivot, but also knowing you the way I know you. Russell is the newest person to me, but we have that connection in terms of you be the Buffalo community and where we all went to school, and
Mm-hmm.
my mega brother there. But really just trying to help folks understand that you don't have to stay in one place, and how can you strategically go about making a pivot, and that's what you all kind of bring today. Um, question, some of you kind of answered it, but what was that moment or realization that made you say, I got to do something different? And I know, Russell, for you, the layoff, right? The ref for you. But if you can kind of dig a little deeper in terms of that question. So who wants to go first?
I'll follow up with that.
Okay.
Since I had two, and I think I'm in the process of the second, but I can speak more clearly to the first.
Okay.
Um, it I was at the fire station, and my girlfriend at the time was in China,
Mm-hmm.
and we had been together for, I don't know, like 9 years at that point. I hadn't proposed, um, but I knew, and we knew that we wanted to be together and start a family. Um, w- I think it was a bit more. It was impulsive because that is part of my fabric.
Mm-hmm.
But I I researched, and I allowed spirit to lead, right?
Okay.
I had a feeling that I need to do something in order to get to my end goal. And
Right.
I'm not totally sure what that is, but I'm going to trust in what's pushing or pulling me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do, and I think this is the case for so many decisions, big decisions, small decisions that we make, is a lot of times you have to start walking before the thing becomes clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to be clear whether or not you're supposed to move or be still. But when you are clear enough that, okay, something is shifting and I need to start moving, the biggest thing you could probably do, I say, I'm dating myself, right? Pick up a book, right?
Right.
You start to read, you start to get knowledgeable about the direction, the space
Mhm.
that you're trying to go into. It's not
Mhm.
detailed, it's not specific, it's very
Mhm.
general, but you start to get knowledgeable about that, and then you start walking. And as you
Yeah.
start walking, things become a bit more clear, a bit more
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we think we need the full picture before we start, and that's just
Mhm.
not how God works.
Mhm.
No, no. I love that story, and I'll share a
Mhm.
little bit about mine in a minute. But who wants to go next?
I'll go because I
Okay.
want to lean a little bit into the idea spirit.
Okay.
I've gotten a chance to have real big divine, I call them divine downloads,
Okay.
where there is a knowing, there is sometimes just a glimmer, right? And sometimes the glimmer comes from a conversation that you might be having with someone that it just opens up a portal, if you will, or just a thought that you never had. Like it's hearing somebody say, "Well, have you ever thought about this?"
Mhm.
Because sometimes people on the outside see something in you that you don't always see, and sometimes when that happens, it's almost like, in my mind, God's way of nudging you in the direction, because it's
Mhm.
like, it's like God using the other person as a conduit for you to see something that you didn't see for yourself.
It's
What is
validation
it
too.
is. It is
Yeah,
validation. And I think that
validation.
sometimes
Mhm.
when you lean into that, because there's another part of it which feels very scary, right? Because sometimes when you don't know, you're spending a lot of time panicking and then running all the wheels, like trying to do all the work. But I also believe, as a believer, that really faith without works is dead, right? So there is a part that's leading into faith, but there, to Russell's point, a section of it that means that you have to start. Like you can't wait you can't stand still and say that the bus is coming and you need to catch this bus. You need to kind of like start actively trying to get to your destination. And I think that sometimes when God sees those things, then the vision becomes a lot clearer because he sees that you're working towards it. But
Mhm.
that's just my opinion in terms of faith, how it's actually shown up in my life. And I know even last year that was the big thing for me. It was like, okay, God, I've applied to 332 jobs, for real, 300 jobs over the course of a year. And it's frustrating. And I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've done LinkedIn and I've done Indeed and I've asked my friends. But the job that I have now came from a conversation. It was somebody saying to me, hey, I really needed somebody, like, the person that we had resigned. Can you fill in? And it
Right.
wasn't supposed to be a long-term thing initially, but then it wound up being a really good fit. So,
Yeah.
that's just been my experience. And I feel like I'm blessed in that way that I'm actually able to hear, for at least for me, what God is saying to me, and then being able to take some action and not always being afraid.
Yeah, and the one thing about your story, and you and I, we have had many conversations, but those transferable skills is something I really push coaches to think about as they're thinking about their next. Um, because we often we think very linear in terms of just, okay, so I'm here, I'm in this company, I'm doing this, my next step is this, and it could be something totally different. And to your point, who knew you would work in HR? I knew you had transferable skills, but who knew that, HR would be the place that you land. So I appreciate that. Tony or Trinae, who wants to go next in terms of your process? Tony, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can go. My process started though because I did, like I said, one, I was going through a lawsuit, discrimination lawsuit with my job when that was going on for about, I'll say, almost 2 years or whatever.
Mm.
One, they what they wrote that you needed for the position. I had everything, degree, management experience, because they was looking for a manager of distribution,
Mhm.
and I had everything. And the candidate that they hired had no management experience, no degree, never been a supervisor, man. So it was
Yeah.
typical. It was like, oh,
The
for real?
usual
Oh,
stuff
oh
we
yeah.
see, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we gonna do this. Oh, well, I'm gonna do this.
Mm,
But and I already knew I had time on the job. I had more than enough time. When I retired, when I left, I was 54. I'll be 57 this year, but I was 54, so I can't. I knew I couldn't pull from my retirement, and I have 3 retirement accounts.
okay.
So with that, and since we talking spiritual, it's like I was going through these steps, and we were looking for a beachfront property because we like to go to the beach and hang out. So we was already looking for property and everything. Um, Getting ready to me wanting to leave, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Like I said, we were looking into franchises, because we knew. I mean, I knew whenever I was going to retire, we were trying to make sure. Mindy and I always talk. Me being in the finances a lot, trying to have at least 6 streams of revenue coming
Hmm.
in. So with it, I mean, like you say, spiritual. When everything was happening, it was like the lawsuit and everything. It was like God was just lining everything up, and I said to Mindy a lot of times, like I was like, it's just amazing because here it is. Make a long story short, it was like I bought a franchise. I retired. I took a little bit of my retirement money from one account. We used that, purchased the beach house in Wilmington. Um, then we bought the franchise, purchased the franchise with it. So here it is. I had 3 businesses starting all at one time and a YouTube channel all
Right.
starting at one time. And that wasn't the plan. But it was like usually when you plan some or steps or something, everything doesn't work out. Stuff start falling. One thing might go through, but other stuff don't happen. It was like everything was lining up, just that. And I really prayed, and I said to the Lord, I was like, look, I don't, because I'm real big on not putting my family in harm's way, and I don't
Hmm.
want to make any decisions that's going to put my family in any type of harm's way. I was like, Lord, if it's not of you, don't let me be emotionally attached to it, this, that, and the other, any property or whatever. Just if it's of you, let it work. I don't want to have to lie or do something different to make things work. Or I was like, just allow it to work. And sure enough, everything just lined up where it was like, okay, when the property came available, it was 7 o'clock at night. We've been watching properties for a while and everything. It was 7 o'clock at night. It popped up on my phone. So I looked at it. I was liked it up. So I called the realtor and said, hey, and we at this time, let me go back. At this time, we had stopped looking. We said we gonna wait until January of the following year and start looking again. This was September. The property came through, and I called the realtor. I said, hey, put an offer in for this. She's like, you sure? And it's 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I said, yeah.
Hmm.
So she called the realtor right then and there, put the offer in. They sent it over to the owner, and by 9 o'clock, the owner approved the offer.
Yeah.
So it was like that happened like really quick, like, oh, for real?
But I tell you, Tony, it's something about the Holy Spirit, and I think all of us
Yes.
on this call spiritual, because I know Trinae may be having a little bit of some challenges. So I'll go ahead and tell my story. But I know one of my big pivots was in my late 30s, and that was me moving from New York, worked for an investment bank for 14 years, had just gotten promoted, but I just felt this nudge to do something different. And I remember moving from Brooklyn to Jersey City at that point in time. And I was like, well, do I, work further out? Because a lot of companies are in Jersey. But I'm like, well, if I have to, if I'm gonna have to get in my car and travel to these places in Jersey and travel an hour or so to get to a place that I really want to be, now might be the best time for me to move, right? Just go ahead and make the big move.
Mhm.
And I did without a job, y'all. But talking about the Lord working in mysterious
Hmm.
ways, my company kept me on payroll for about 4 or 5 months. I ended up landing a contract role with the daughter-in-law of a professor I had in grad school who, talk about blind spots, he wasn't even someone I even had in mind in terms of being her father-in-law. Her husband was mixed race, right? So again, talk about unconscious biases, right? But everything just lined up. Everything just lined up. And that's when I knew, okay, I'm doing the right thing. So being able to pause and really just for those people who are spiritual, asking for guidance and just allowing things to just happen doesn't mean you don't do some things behind the scenes, you don't do any research or do that,
That's right.
but for sure when everything lines up, that's when you're in the right space. So Trinae, are you good with us? I see you off camera. I don't know if you're having issues or I'm gonna text her and see what's going on, but we'll keep it. We'll
Hey,
keep it.
Michelle, could I add
Uh-huh.
something there?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Russell.
Oh yeah, I'm noticing a common thread with the three of us, with the four of us, talking about our pivots. And this is something that I spoke about in our production call, which
Mhm.
was the the ease with which things happen when you are actually properly aligned and in the right place and space.
Right.
Yes.
It's 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 not that there's not hard work to do, and it's not that it won't be hard to do, that it won't be taxing emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically.
Mhm.
But the ease by which things fall in place when
Mhm.
you're properly aligned
Mhm.
is undeniable.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely, Russell.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And
Uh,
Trinae, you're not on camera, so if you can yes.
It's I could see myself, but it's weird.
Yeah. So you're not on camera, but we can hear
we
you.
can hear you.
Yeah.
But I can see myself on the side, and there's no. It's showing that it's on.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know what's going on, but you know what? We're gonna work with
We're
it.
gonna work with
We're
it.
gonna
Yep. We're
work
gonna
Keep
work
with
with
on
it,
it.
looking at
Trinae.
yourself,
That's
girl. Go
it.
That's
on.
right. Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said, and your camera's good. You were on before, so I'm not sure what
And
happened.
I can see the camera. Like I can see myself.
Okay.
Hold
Interesting.
on,
All
let me see.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure
Well,
what's happening.
I'll just
But go
segue for
ahead,
a
Trinae,
second.
tell your story because you haven't had
Yep.
a chance to tell your story. So, what
Hmm.
was the moment or realization that made you say something? Now's a good time that I make a change.
um s- so it was more so I have reached my capacity, right? Like at the college. There was no more room for growth. I was there from, 18 to 35. I came in as a temp. I worked my way all the way up to assistant director. Um, you know, 2 degrees, bachelor's degree in psychology with a concentration in juvenile justice. Went on to my master's degree in mental health and addiction counseling. Um, and it was, it ran its course. It
Mhm.
was more so like a family. I was really close to a lot of people because again, I started off very young there, right? um and it was one of those situations where, being afraid to take the next step, being familiar, just being complacent. It was very scary to move on to the next step. But when I was presented with an opportunity, um, and seeing the numbers, seeing how much more money that I would make, um, and I had a moment when the president of the college's right hand, it was I forget his position at this moment, it escapes me, came to my desk, which he never comes into that area. And when he came to that area, he said, Trinae, you're setting yourself up and your daughter for success. And
Mm.
the fact that he came to me and stated that, I'll never forget it. Um, I'm like, okay, that told me that I was making the right decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and again, he didn't have to come there. He didn't have to say that to me. He didn't have to say anything. But it was one of those. It was that moment, and I'm like, okay, because I was, I was afraid. I was scared to take that leap. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna see where it leads me. Um, and it has been an amazing experience. I
Yeah.
left not knowing what I was getting into whatsoever. Didn't know the job. Knew nothing about. I knew higher ed. I was there for 17 years. But going into the energy space, I knew nothing, but obviously could learn, a magnitude of things. And being taught how to
Right.
do certain things, being in a space, knowing that I can bring, my knowledge from where I came from, and being open and adaptable and being able to adjust to whatever was presented to me. And so that's what kind of like led me to that space and helped
Yeah.
me, to navigate in that area, just being
Yeah.
open-minded. Yeah.
And what I like with you, Tony and Russell, you know, you had your families in mind as you were making those decisions, right? Um, I know for me it was me and Adia a little easier maybe because we didn't have anybody else to be accountable to, but still being very thoughtful and intentional about what we were doing. Just for me, just to make sure I was setting myself up for success longer term, right? And for me, part of my thought process was also what can I do that's going to continue to fulfill my passion and keep me motivated, right? So when you're in a space of a pivot, some of those thoughts should come to mind as well, often do come to mind as you're making your decisions. So here's my next question. Um, Before you made your pivot, was there anything you were holding on to that you needed to let go of? Yeah. Go ahead, Adia.
Oh Lord. Um, I find that God makes me so uncomfortable
Okay.
that I have no other choice but to move.
Mhm.
And a lot of times my pivots have been like I've been in a job that I say I love. I'm giving all these hours, I'm doing all this stuff. Sometimes I'm doing more than one person's job, but I'm
Mhm.
passionate about the thing. And so I'm excited. And God's like, no, you need to be getting paid more. You need to be doing less. You need to be at home some days. And that's what you have said to me months ago when you have talked about what you want in your life. And so what I find is that when I am out of alignment with what I've said to God that I want, God was like, "Oh, okay. Hold on. Please hold the bread. Please
Mhm.
hold, the glass of water. I'm going to make you so uncomfortable that you either want to cuss everybody out at your job or you get sick. That happened to me one year. I got so sick that I had to have surgery.
Mhm.
And that, I was after the surgery, I was like, okay, God, like there's a lot going on here. But it was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then when that's happening, you can't get out of that, right? And it's like varying degrees of uncomfortable. It's like first it's like annoyance,
Mhm.
then it's like you're bothered and you're angry all the time to the fact that you start dreading going to work. Like I was
Mhm.
dreading at one point going to work.
Mhm.
And when you know that you're physically getting symptoms, autoimmune systems, whatever, you know it's time for you to go. But then that
Yeah.
question kept coming up like, okay, God, what's happening? And then
Mhm.
for me, it's always been a conversation that has happened or
Yeah.
something opens up and I'm like, okay, God, I'm just going to jump. Like I've moved from Buffalo to DC with no job, with an idea that I should be moving. I kept saying for like 6 months, 9 months that I wanted to move, but I just hadn't seen it yet. And then there was a
Yeah.
conversation with somebody and they were like, well, you could come stay here. You're a hustler.
Mhm.
You'll be fine. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay.
Mhm. And it's funny sometimes how even in our process of trying to make changes is sometimes God will make us sit down and be still.
Oh, yes. Oh my
There's different
gosh.
ways that he does that in terms of making us stand still, right?
Yes. Because
Um,
because you think that you know better
yeah.
than what God has planned. So like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I know that my favorite scripture is Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize that when I have leaned into that scripture in my life, things have changed because I start
Mm-hmm.
taking my hands off the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Russell, go ahead. I'm gonna let you because you got your mouth open. You ready to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. You just ended with Jeremiah 29:11, and that is the scripture that I call it our sign, right? Because we have a sign that is up in my son's room. Well, they're both their rooms now. Um, but since my eldest son, who's 5, Malachi, since he was born, he had this sign up in his room of Jeremiah 29:11, and since he's been 3, he's been able to recite it. And part of our daily routine is when I was working and when I'm not working, is with us saying our prayers. Like we created a prayer for the morning, and then both them boys recite Jeremiah 29:11. Um, I I use that transition to what the question that you asked. Is there anything that you had to give up in order to lean
Mm-hmm.
um, into your pivot? Um, the second one, yes. The first one, not so much.
Okay.
The first one was I had to give up the idea of me being a superhero
Mm.
to the community, to others, to my family, but I was giving it up to also then become a superhero
Okay.
for my family, right? I wanted to be husband, father on a whole nother level, provide on a whole nother level. That means I have to give up the picture, the image of what I had in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Not that big a deal, right? That
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trading one for the next. For this pivot, I've had to give up. Good Lord. The list is long and distinguished.
Okay.
Um, but one of the main things I had to give up, and Tony could probably feel me on this, is throughout my I've been with my wife for 21 years. I've been the breadwinner for 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've and especially when I came into Big Four Consulting and moving up, getting promoted again, I've had to give up the notion of provider,
Mm.
the monetary notion of provider, because my severance took us through January. From
Mm-hmm.
January to April, my wife has been the breadwinner
Mm-hmm.
for our home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now we were smart, we had things saved and whatnot, but the biggest money, we still have things coming in, but the biggest money is now coming in on her side of the fence. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm now, and some people would say relegated. I don't say relegated at all. Like I am now the stay at home dad. I
Mm-hmm.
am
Mm-hmm.
the caretaker, the nurturer. I am I'm the one that makes sure our home is clean and
Right.
smells good
Right.
and food is prepared
Right.
and children are bathed and cared for and learning and all those things that you naturally associate with a mother
Right.
or a nurturing figure, which typically is just physiologically women.
Yeah.
I am now having to take that on, and most days happily, some days quite
Yeah.
reluctant.
Well, what you had to do is break through this view of what um roles the role alignment is because we all have, I would say we all but this whole society has instilled in us roles based on gender, right?
Sure.
And what we're learning
And
over the
we grew up
years is
experiencing
role
that a certain way.
reversal. Exactly.
My
Exactly.
father ain't never my grandfather damn sure ain't never
Right.
like what?
Right. And it's okay. And and in this sense, I tell people, as long as you and your spouse are okay with it, who the heck cares
Mhm.
what
Correct.
anybody else
Yeah.
thinks,
I
right?
mean, it's like you're leaning into partnership more than the idea of what marriage
Exactly.
is, right?
Which is what you
Mhm.
should
Sure.
be doing
Yeah.
as a married couple, right? Traditional
Absolutely.
roles, we got to get out of our mind that we got to live by these traditional roles. And unfortunately for a lot of us, the way society is right now, some of us have been forced into having to change some of that,
Mhm.
right? Which is not a bad thing. Yeah.
So to answer your question, what I had to give up, which I think a lot of people would uh see themselves as having that challenge or barrier, is the shackles of the mind.
Yeah.
Is the idea of what I think this is supposed to be, this is supposed to look like. I know we keep talking about spirit, and it kind of it's a good thing that all things kind of lead back to that. If this is his show and you're an actor in it, then let that brother direct, play your role for you want to master the season that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do that. And
Yeah.
and you'll be affirmed as doing a good job.
Yeah. One of my mantras is grow where you're planted.
There
Mm.
you go.
And sometimes we are put in spaces, and it could be uncomfortable, but the question is, what are you learning while you're there?
What you
Mm.
gonna
Because
do
I
with
do
that?
believe nothing occurs by happenstance. So what is the lesson while you are there? What is it that you can learn while you are in that space for that season? Right.
And a lot
Um,
of times the lesson is to be appreciative.
yeah. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
be appreciative in the place that you're at? Not
Yeah.
the place that you want to be, not the
Right.
place that, like to Trinae's point, I didn't plan to go on this interview.
Right.
I
Right.
wasn't looking for this job,
Mm.
Yeah.
but I got it. I don't even, well, excuse me, I didn't get it.
Right.
I got something else. Do am I gonna lean into that and get good at that?
Right.
Am I gonna love me
Right.
through that? And
Yeah.
is that once you're able to do that, then maybe that catapults you or moves you or clears the way for something else that maybe that you had in mind. Or maybe he's got another plan for you. But understand
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
it's his plan, not
Yeah.
yours.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
Trinae,
Michelle, to
Trinae
your
and
point,
Tony, what you want to add there? Go ahead, Trinae.
to your point when you stated, change is uncomfortable, right? Like I would say that change is uncomfortable, but but staying the same has a cost too, right?
Absolutely.
And
That's good.
with that, which discomfort are you more willing to live with?
Listen, and sometimes the new comfort is you forget that what you're being led to is actually better than where you're coming from most
Mm-hmm.
times.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You gonna pay one way or another.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you gonna pay for you gonna pay.
Right.
It's gonna cost a change and it's gonna cost to stay the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Either
Exactly.
way.
Tony, how about you? Anything you want to add to this piece, this conversation?
Um, what I had to give up, y'all probably gonna be like, but it's the truth. When I get in more in depth on it, you see, but I had to give up a whole lot of time, and
Mm-hmm.
with that, it's hard for my family to understand, and I know they be like, well, we want you, we don't need the money and this, that, other, but it's like you starting three businesses at one time. Um, it takes time to get this stuff off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm managing, because it's me, I'm managing the properties over there, which the property is on 7 different websites. So people are booking on different things, and you got to answer that. Then you got clients, and you have to basically you on call with your clients at all different times, and you have to go, you got to sit there and see what deals is out there with travel. So plus I didn't mention that I am like just like you, Russ. I'm like I'm the coach, the homeschool coach for our 15-year-old who homeschooled. So, looking at his stuff, and I got to make sure his work is getting in and things like that. So, I mean, and then, your family is sitting there saying that, well, we need time with you. We need time with you. It's like, and I tell people, I literally have 6 jobs. They don't, because I handle all of the finances at home. So I make sure everything here is paid at this house. This is a job. Like I said, coach is my the coach for my son for his school. I had that job. The Airbnb, I'm managing the property and everything over there. Then I'm doing the travel business. I have that job right there alone. Plus, I didn't tell you guys that we added transportation onto our travel business. So now, picked up clients with that. So we take clients to and from the airport in Uber too on top of it. So it's like I'm constantly gone or constantly doing something. And it's like, and if it stops, then on one hand, I got everybody looking at me like, well, we want to do this, but we ain't got the funds to do all of this. But if I don't do this, then so it's like, what do I do?
We gonna find some balance, Tony. We gonna find some balance because your family needs to see you. We're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that.
So we did. We actually sat down because they had a family discussion where everybody, came at me. Boy, I got it. But anyway, it was a big thing. So now Sundays from 6 to 9 is our family time.
Good.
Michelle, they hit that boy with their intervention.
Yeah. Look,
Did they?
Look.
They said you will not do this anymore.
We do have to find time to balance, because even for myself, and I think different podcasts I mentioned, while I was working, I was so busy, and I had my dad was sick, and and he, he passed away, and I just realized I was focusing so much on other things that I didn't allow myself time to focus on the things that really were important to me. Right. So sometimes we have to, we got to pause. Right. Because all work and no play, something's got to give.
Indeed.
Right.
So
and usually it's my sleep.
And that's not good
we
either.
Work on that, Tony.
Tony, that is not working. That's not helpful.
Yeah, that's not good, Tony.
No, actually, I suffer from insomnia, so I'm up anyway. So when everybody sleep, that's when I can actually do what I need to do and everything, because it's like, okay, everybody's sleeping off. The world slows down for me. I've always been like that. So
I understand, from fellow night owl to night owl, yes. However, the body still needs to rest.
Yeah, and I'm a night owl too, Tony. And Nadia, a lot of times we texting each other real late at night, and I know I text my sis late last night. She's like, I was in bed. I was like, okay.
Which is weird for me, because my sleep schedule is all over the place. But I was going to add to that, just for a moment, like prior to my pivot, right? Success meant personal achievement, hitting milestones and advancing my own career.
Right.
Success was heavily tied to productivity and output, right? But since my pivot, I started to value impact more.
I
would say now I define success by the difference I make, right? Whether that's helping other people, contributing to meaningful conversations, a mission, or creating something that adds real value while maintaining my well-being, right? Relationships and my mental health. So that's huge.
And Trinae, that's a good transition, because that was going to be my next question.
Right.
What does success look like? How do you define success now? Has it changed for you? So go ahead, Adia. I
can tell you. Listen, last year, I will say this, and this might seem a little crazy, but I had felt like every step that I had done in my career was like the next level. And when I got appointed by the president and worked at the White House and stuff like that, I felt like that was like the pinnacle outside of like doing the Olympics. And when it was all over, it took me maybe 3 months to really gather myself and say, you don't have to do, like, what is the next thing? You don't have to do the next thing. Like the next thing doesn't look like Mindy hilarious. It
I
doesn't
know.
look
I
like
didn't mean to put I didn't mean to put your comment on blast, Mindy.
Hey, I didn't even know she was in here.
like, go ahead,
I
Mindy.
mean, she said we had to have her
Hey,
intervention.
hey,
Honestly,
I'm
Oh,
playing with the look. I'm
intervention.
playing with the tools. Didn't even realize I put Mindy's
I
intervention
know.
there.
That's
Yeah, Mindy,
hilarious.
that's Tony's
That's
wife. Yeah,
Tony's
Mindy,
right.
doing the intervention. I'm sorry, Fresh. Go ahead.
No worries. That was hilarious. But but that kind of thing is important, right? Because the conversation I actually had with my own mother was, Adia, you know that you don't have to do the next ladder step. Like you have to define now in your 40s, you're 43, I think it was 43 at the time. You have to define what's important to you.
Yeah.
And when I went back to that thought process, it was like, I don't want to go to an office 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have children, so I want to be able to see my niece and nephew when I want to. I want to be able to go to New York when I want to travel. I want to be able to take some days off. I want to be able to build. Like the whole idea of me having this business so that I do event planning and I do travel and I do podcasting is because I wanted freedom. I think that's the thing that everybody's looking forward to is some sort of freedom, whether the freedom comes in your like day to day or whether freedom is towards retirement. But COVID really was the mind shift for me. It was like,
It was for a lot of people.
woo, it was like that is
Yeah.
not the life I want to have anymore. And
Yeah.
the idea of being able to work from home and to do
Yes.
stuff. And then when I left the foundation and I had like clients and I was traveling for stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is the life I want. So I knew that the thing that was hindering me is that I needed more exposure to get clients.
Mhm.
And I was okay to go take some of these other things. But now working in the school is so when I tell you I love working in the school.
Mhm.
And it's more so because I see Black and brown children who look at me and they could say, oh, this person did this, right?
Mhm.
But it's also the fact that I get a chance to have that love that I love about children on a daily basis. And
Mhm.
I can pour into them when I see them, whether
Yeah.
it's tying their shoelaces or telling them some feedback that's going to help them or helping them
Yeah.
with their homework.
Yeah.
So when we say those things like what does success look like? Success for me looks like happy freedom.
Yeah.
Happy freedom.
And
It doesn't have to be credentialed anymore. I feel like I got enough of those things. It doesn't have to have the same type of pay. I feel like money will come because money's currency and money is energy. So as long as I'm putting good energy out there, money will always come. And I think that I'm going to give and receive anyway. So
Right.
the
Right.
things that I used to want, I understand why people in their 50s just want to be left alone. That they just want peace.
Yeah.
get it.
And that's
Totally
where
get
I'm
it.
at. Like happy, peace, freedom is
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
And anything that doesn't give me happy, peace, or freedom, I'm not messing with it. My auntie says convenience. I will pay for convenience
Yep.
and comfort.
Yeah. One
And
of the
that's where
things
I'm at.
I talk about, and whether you're in a pivot or just even trying to think about, your career in general, one of the questions I ask people are, what are your non-negotiables? Right? Start thinking about those things that are really important to you from a value perspective. And then what are your non-negotiables, right? Because it is in those spaces that you will then find what really matters to you and will help you to eliminate those opportunities that come forward. And it may seem like it's a good opportunity, but if it doesn't align with your values, it doesn't align with your non-negotiables, then you can say for yourself, you know what, this is just not good for me, and I'm okay with it, right? Yep. Tony Russell, anything you want to add to that?
I think identifying those non-negotiables is crucial.
Yeah.
It's almost like working backwards. There's a a ton of things, countless things that you would say yes to, but you have to be able to identify what are the no's, right?
Right.
I can, so long as these no's aren't present, we
Mhm.
can discuss and we can negotiate and figure out the rest. Um, Success, much like Adia, success to me was wearing a dress white uniform with a white helmet, right? Graduating from a black helmet to a white helmet and having my boys come to the firehouse to see their dad, who was an officer.
Mm-hmm.
Success was suited, clean, in the office, calling shots, making things happen and work for our clients, um, leading the team. Success now is my world. It always did, but really anchors down and centers around my boys.
Yeah.
So success is I was able to build the fence that my wife wanted built last
Mm-hmm.
weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 weeks ago, I built her a garden bed on the side of the house and was able to like take instructions from her and help her to plant an apple tree and some other fruits and herbs.
Right. Right.
Whereas before, I I took care of I did the wake ups, the drop offs and the pickups with the boys. I did the playtime with the boys. When I'm working, I'm zoned out, leave me alone. And then I did a lot of travel for work. So
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very, very present here and I
Mm-hmm.
was very distant when I'm gone.
Yeah.
Now I'm here and I'm
Yeah.
in it. And
Yeah.
I'm my 3-year old and 5-year old can do their 1 to 10 times tables.
Yeah.
That's I they couldn't do that before they were home every day with daddy.
Yeah.
They can count. They
So you're
can
seeing
they're beginning
you're
to
able to spend
read.
more time with them as well, right? More than you had before.
Well, I spent a lot of time with them before, but
Okay.
I focused on like they're going to their development is what determines success for me.
Okay. All right. Good.
And
Good.
it was actually 91. You might know the name Christopher Finch.
Yeah.
Sai, he's the one that he told me about the Bruz way back when I was still in Buffalo. He said that you can be as out as you want to be. Your legacy will be defined by those that come after you.
Yeah.
So regardless of what you do and you think that you doing, if you don't know how to pay that forward and
Yeah.
put that into someone else and have that sprout and grow,
Yeah.
you ain't done all that you think you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that, Russell. Tony, I don't know if you want to add anything in terms of just your definition of success. Has it changed
Well,
as a result of your pivot?
yeah, my definition of success is just making sure my family is good.
Yeah.
That's always been my big, and that's why I tell them I work hard, because I want to make sure that they're good. And if I don't have to hear it, I mean, they're good. I don't have to. It makes it's worth it for me.
Right.
If I got to hear all then it's not successful. Now,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm slowing down, and they can't see this, but because like what we talked about the other night and everything, some things that's happening in the future, um, I'm preparing for some things that's going on in the future where that's when it's like, okay, now I can rest. But till that point is I have to do this grind, you know, to get to that point, so that point I can take my rest and
Yeah.
chill out and enjoy it. But for right now, it's like for this next little course, I got to be on this grind and making sure, because I got to make sure y'all good and make sure we're good down the road for
Yeah.
later. So
But
then
we
everything
want you.
is
We
put
also
together.
want you because y'all. Tony's a good
You to
friend of
live.
mine.
We want you to live.
Yeah. Tony's a good friend of mine. His wife is my bestie. We want you to be able to enjoy that point, right?
I do
So,
that when we go on cruises.
but we want to make, yeah, when you go on cruises, yeah, but we want you
when
to
we
be able to
when
go
we
on
go out
cruises. We
on
don't want you to be
vacations.
sick on the cruises, Tone. So anyway, we have to have an after conversation. But anyway, all right. So here's my last question, y'all. What would you say to someone who knows they need to make a change but hasn't taken that first step? What would you say?
when I
Uh,
think about
mhm.
that, I'm
Go ahead,
sorry. You
Tony.
want to go ahead? Okay, I
Go
was
No.
gonna
ahead.
say
Start with you, Tony. Go
Oh,
ahead.
when I think about that, I my whole thing is pray first.
Yeah.
Pray first about the change that you're trying to make. If it's something you want to do, or if you're being led to do it, and you have to be totally honest with yourself. Um, and then take little steps. If you are being led, like you want to make this decision, because I have with us, and I know Russ say this too. I had to talk everything over with the other half to make
Right.
sure the other half is on board too. And I don't do anything without the other half being involved in it. Like I run everything by my other half, because home got to be taken care of.
Right.
So my thing is, you take little steps, research, um, go through and like make sure you like Russ was saying earlier, you reading, you learning about, whatever it is you want to do. You're getting the and not just the good parts of it, seeing the good part. You got to look at, because nothing is perfect. So you got to look at,
Right.
some obstacles that's going to come with it and all. And so you can learn and be able to deal with those obstacles, beforehand. So when
Yeah.
the storm comes, you already know. So that would be what I would say. Pray first. Be honest with yourself. Is this if you're a spiritual person, if this is something you want to do, and is this something that God is leading you to do? Because for me, I knew for a fact he was leading me to, okay, you transitioning out of this place right here, and you're going to be operating these. And now everything I do, and it's really is a blessing, and I enjoy it. Everything I do right now, I literally work for myself. Every dime that I receive. Now my wife still works for the state of North Carolina, but my business, every dime that or income that I actually bring in the house is from my own work, which is
Right.
really good
Right.
because I spent so many years doing it for somebody else. Now
Yeah.
I do it for me, and it's a blessing. It really
Yeah.
is a blessing.
That's that's
But
that's the great that's the great thing about entrepreneurship, and as people are thinking about next steps, you know, think about what you can do on your own as well, right? Because everything doesn't have to necessarily be you have to work for somebody. God may be taking you in a direction to do some things on your own as well.
I did
Um,
have one last thing to say.
go
But
ahead.
being an owner and everything is on you.
It is. It
Everything is
is.
on you, and you don't really start working until you work for yourself.
Yeah.
Because
It's different. It's definitely
it's
entrepreneurship is
on
not for
you,
the weak. It's not for
right?
the weak
it's
at
it's
all.
it's on you, and you got to be prepared to roll them sleeves up and
Yeah.
put the work in.
Yeah. Adia, what would you say to someone and just defining what's next as well? What would you say to someone who needs to take the first step?
Oh, there's three things. I agree with Tony in praying if you're a believer. The second is surrender. I think we pray all the time, but sometimes we don't surrender to what God is showing us. And sometimes
Mhm.
God is hitting us
Amen.
over the head over and over and over and over again, and we're not surrendering to the thing. And then I think the third thing is really doing an assessment of just what are you good at?
Mhm.
Like, what would you do if you didn't get paid for it? And then tell yourself that you have to monetize that gift.
Yeah.
Everybody has a gift. You got to tap into it. I loved event planning. That's what made me build this business. And the thing that I love about my event planning business is I'm able to help other people. So I bring people along that I know and
Mhm.
utilize their gifts and talents to help
Yeah.
the business itself. So, I think that the praying first, the surrendering to what that's going to look like. And I would probably mention the fourth thing is actually believing that it's going to work out.
Yeah.
If you can tell yourself, motivate yourself that every day, no matter what it looks like, that it's absolutely working out for your good, you will see far better results. Because the
Yeah.
minute that you allow negativity to get into the space is going to keep pushing you, it's going to stall your progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say that negativity, you got to kind of do a sanity check. Is that negativity a signal that maybe you shouldn't be going in that direction, but
Mhm.
don't let it weigh so heavy on you that it stops you from moving forward, right?
Indeed.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Trinae, how about you?
Mhm.
What would you say to someone?
Um, First and foremost, just like you guys stated, praying, because that has been a huge thing over the years for me, over the
Mm-hmm.
last few years. Um, Asking for the things that we want. And Adia, to your point, the surrender piece is key. I didn't think about it from that standpoint, but that's some great advice. Thank you. Um, but also understanding that what is for you, no one can take from you. So if it's meant,
Absolutely.
it's meant,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I had a friend a few years back that was battling with their necks and trying to figure out, and it was within their same um job, right? Like, and they were trying to figure out a new position, and they didn't know how to present that to their partner. Um, and I'm like, figure it out. Just figure it out. Like, you're gonna adapt to it. There's no reason, the time and all of it's gonna fall in place. You just gotta trust the process. And I did have this conversation, and they did, right? And it worked out.
Yeah.
So that was
Trusting the
one of the,
process is big, right?
yeah, it's
Being able to
it's
trust the
difficult to
process.
do. Yeah, it's definitely difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the last thing you asked, defining what's next, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Defining what's next for me means identifying where I can make the most meaningful contribution
Mm-hmm.
in a different industry, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
did that. As I continue working in both fields, um, I think about how my past experience in higher education could bring a fresh perspective and solve problems in new environments.
Yeah.
Um, it's about being intentional in where I invest my time and energy, no pun intended.
Yeah. 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 And I think it's important as mid career to do that. And I think a lot of us who have made decisions mid career, moving with intentionality has been key, right? I'm not sure it was as intentional. I'll say it for me when I was early in my career, but definitely once I got to mid career, I was very intentional,
Mm.
right? So, Russ, how about you?
Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna help the audience with what everyone first noted as far as prayer goes.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the prayer. A lot of times, people say pray, and folk don't know what that means. What?
Yeah.
So let me help you out. Um, Pray exactly what Adia had followed up with. Pray for God to give you the capacity to submit.
Mm-hmm.
Pray that his will be done and
His
that
will
your will aligns with
with
his.
his will. Yeah.
Pray that your heart and your head and your being is conditioned, is refined to want and desire what it is that he wants for you. We could want what we want all we want, and we could
Right.
pray for what we want all we want. And if that ain't what he want, then that ain't what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
pray that your heart is changed, your heart is shifted, your mind adjusts to be in alignment with what it is that he has for you so that you can seamlessly walk into it.
Yeah.
Um, 91 told me chance favors a prepared man. I would say for anyone who's in the process or thinking about their pivot, two things. One, discipline is the asset,
Mhm.
tunnel vision is a liability.
Mm. Good.
Discipline,
Good.
discipline is the asset.
Mm-hmm.
But to have tunnel vision blocks you off from all the things, all
All
the
the
notifications,
possibilities.
all the
Yeah.
possibilities.
Yeah.
Don't do that. A lot of
Yeah.
times, I started off this season with tunnel vision. Uh-oh, this is coming to an end. Yo, I got to put my head down. I can't think. I can't feel. I just got to do.
Right.
And it wasn't until some things started to break on the inside of me that it was like, yo, chill.
Mm-hmm.
What's actually going on out and around here?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
what is what's really going on? And I don't know what's going on in some areas, but I certainly know more about what's going on in others. And that's the second part that I wanted to admonish or offer to the viewers is if you're thinking about that pivot, understand that the process, the value is in the process. The
Yes.
end, the end goal is just the reward, and
Yeah.
that's great. But what's valuable is the process. And Michelle, I think, was trying to get into Tony's ear about you gotta enjoy now. I know you're planning for later.
Absolutely.
I
Tomorrow's not
know you're
promised to any of
getting
us.
things. We're all trying to make sure that family is taken care of now
Yeah.
and family is taken care of later. But you get one life to live.
Mhm.
And if you spend your entire life reaching for the thing, going after the thing, trying to obtain the thing, and then getting the thing. A lot of us, especially as New Yorkers, we like, all right, cool, bet. What's the next thing? Yo, that's that's not the way.
It's never
It's
ending.
never
And
ending.
it's never
It's
ending.
It's
never
never ending.
It's
ending.
never
It's
ending.
never enough.
Yeah.
Just be enough with now. Be
Yeah.
enough with now. Be enough with tomorrow. Do your research, seek it out, but enjoy, find joy in the seeking out
Mhm.
and the discovery of where it is that you're actually going.
Mm,
Yeah. And it doesn't mean, and it doesn't mean you don't think about tomorrow, but as you're
correct.
saying, you're
Right.
enjoying the space that you're in
Yes,
because, like I said, tomorrow's not promised to any of us,
at
Mhm.
all.
right? So you want to be able to enjoy the space that you're in now. Yeah, plan, do the things that you need to do to set yourself up. But don't get so engrossed in the planning that you forget to enjoy where you are in that moment,
Yes,
right?
Michelle, there's not a soul that has ever laid on their deathbed and said, man, I wish I worked harder.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
And
absolutely.
see,
We hear
And
that's
I
now
so
want
my
much
to
about
look.
people saying, I
I
wish
can
I
actually
lived
say
more.
this. I
Yeah,
can actually say this for me. Mine's is not I wish I can work harder. If I'm laying on my deathbed, and I'm being totally honest, and they hear me say that, if I'm laying on my deathbed, mine is I took care of my family.
Yeah,
I work hard, so if something do happen to me, I know they're good on the back end.
yeah.
mm-hmm.
That's where that's for me, that's my
That's your
hard work is
motivation.
making
That's your
sure, yeah,
motivation.
that's what I'm saying. My family, my
Yeah,
heart, my joy is okay, I know they're good,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
regardless.
And
If
we
you
want to
got
make
to
sure you
sell the
good too,
if you got to
Yeah,
Tony.
but
sell the beach
yes.
house, if you got to sell this house that
Yeah,
we got the
Mm-hmm.
business, y'all got my thing is as long as my family is good, I'm good. And that's
yeah,
Yeah.
why
So
I
I want
always lead with my family motivates me.
yeah.
I
And I
want
want
to.
to wrap this up.
Yeah.
So, Adi, I'm gonna give you.
2 seconds.
Go ahead.
I want to say this 2 things. One of my favorite scriptures besides 29:11 is Romans 12:2. That says, "Do not be conformed.
Hmm.
Do not be conformed
Love
to
it.
the
To
world,
this world,
and
but
be
you
transformed by the
transform.
renewing of your mind."
Yeah,
One of
Hmm.
the things I would love for people to walk away to Russell's point is understanding that transformation of your mind is not going to be easy,
no,
that it takes a number of steps. Sometimes it takes a
Hmm.
couple of nudgings.
Ooh,
Sometimes it takes the prayers, it takes the late nights, it takes the discipline, it takes all of those things to actually allow yourself to actually be transformed.
yeah,
Because
girl, you
what we
preach.
do know is that a lot of the stuff that we see on the news does not always affect our daily lives. But
mm-mm.
what matters is the stuff that's happening in your circle of influence with the people that you love. It's taking care of your health so that you can actually enjoy the people that you're trying to take care of. And it's also being able to grow and enjoy the journey.
Yeah,
I want I want the people who are at home to understand that it's okay to be in the hallway at the moment.
yeah,
It's okay to be in the hallway. You don't have to always be in the door. You don't always have to be doing that. I mean, my break last year was wonderful when I started to really enjoy it. And now I'm working at a pace that's ridiculous now but I can look back and say, you know what, I enjoyed that year off. I
Yeah.
got back to me. I got back to the things that were important. I enjoyed my family. And now I can go back out into the doorway and actually go run this next race. So
Thank you for that, y'all. I'm going to tie this up
Michelle,
and
just
say
one
thank you.
thing
Go
before
ahead, Trinae. Go ahead. One more. Go ahead,
one
Trinae.
thing. No, just living in the moment is important, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to, elaborate on that a little bit, living in the moment, because with me, traveling each year, right? Like going out, I found myself in the past, leading up to that vacation, planning for it, getting there, and then being on vacation and not enjoying it, because now I'm thinking about what do I need to do when I get back. Everything was ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything was ahead.
Absolutely.
So living in the moment is
Absolutely.
important. I just needed to state that.
Thank you. Thank you. And there's a great book I've read and I love called Battlefield of the Mind by
Mhm.
Joyce
Love
Myers.
it.
If you don't, yeah, if you are in this headspace where you just can't figure out what to do and just take a look at that book, Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Myers. It's an excellent book. But I'm gonna put you guys in the green room so I can wrap this up. Thank you, Tony, Trinae, Russell, and Adia. If you guys can just wait for me to get back there, I'm just gonna close us out. And yeah, y'all, thank you for hanging in there with us. And know that if you have someone who wasn't able to join us live, they can leverage the same links to watch this episode in replay. I am planning for a part 3 that's going to be focused on those who are near retirement or at retirement. And it's going to be focused on legacy. How do you build legacy? Because during that phase of our lives, that's really where many of our heads are. Tony kind of alluded to. Tony could have played in both episodes, but I'm glad I brought him here for this episode. But stay tuned. Haven't decided what date I'm going to do it. I may do it in May. I may do it in June, but just stay close to my pages, my business page and my personal page. And if you haven't liked my YouTube channel yet, go ahead and check that out as well. And until next time, y'all have a great rest of your evening and a great weekend. All right. Bye.